All right, so we got to solve this. We're going to use the quadratic formula to do it. Before I do this, just to keep from having too much confusion, I'm going to change all the z's to x's. It doesn't really matter what variable you use. I just don't want you to think z's are 2's whenever I write all this out. So I'm just going to rewrite this. Okay, and we'll just use this. So let me just completely take this out so you're not too confused. There we go. So we're going to work with this. We're going to work with negative 18x squared minus 31x plus 12 equals negative 2x squared. So when we do this, I'm going to first set it equal to 0. So I'm going to add 2x squared to each side. That'll cancel. And I have 20x squared minus 31x plus 12 equals 0. Now I can go ahead and get ready to plug into my quadratic formula. So a reminder, your quadratic formula is x is equal to negative b plus and minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and it's all over 2a. So with that, I'm going to also have to know what sorry, I'm really bad at writing my a's and stuff. I'm going to have what a equals, my b equals, and my c equals. So the a value is the coefficient for the x squared term, so it'll be 20. The b value is the coefficient for the x term, negative 31. And then the c value is the constant of 12. And just a reminder, it's because ax squared plus bx plus c is the way we're setting up our quadratics. First things first, let's plug them in. X is equal to negative b, so negative 31, plus and minus the square root of b squared, so negative 31 squared, minus 4 times our a value is 20, our c value is 12, and then that whole thing is going to end up getting divided by 2 times 20. So now we just work it out. I've got x is equal to, we'll make that, I give myself a little bit more room here. Let's make it x is equal to positive 31 plus and minus the square root of, let's go ahead and we'll do square root, or 31 squared is 961. And I know it's a negative 31 squared, but it still makes it positive 961. And it'll be minus 4 times 20 is 80. And I think it's going to be 960 on the 12, but let's go ahead and multiply that out on the calculator. 4 times 20 times 12. Yeah, it makes it 960. So it's going to end up being an easy problem. 2 times 20 is 40. And we just keep working right along. Bring down x equals 31. You can't do anything else with it right now. You just bring it down. Square root 961 minus 960 is just 1. So it's all over 40. Now, you got to pay attention when we do this. When I take the square root of 1, the square root of 1, it becomes 1 or negative 1, right? You don't have to worry about that because I got the plus and minus sign. Okay, so don't worry about that. That's what that's for. That's to make sure you don't forget that. So I end up with square root of 1 being just 1 in this case because I've got the plus minus. I have 31 plus and minus 1 over 40. This is where I would split it up into 2 different problems. I'm going to do this over to the side. X equals 31 plus 1 over 40. And then also we'll do one for 31 minus 1 over 40. 31 plus 1 is 32. 31 minus 1 is 30. And you can do one at a time. You don't have to do them together like I'm doing here. 32 over 40 reduces down to 4 over 5 because the top and bottom both are divisible by 8. And then 30 over 40 obviously reduces down to 3 over 4. So that's your two answers. And you can put the little squiggly braces around it. I suck at drawing them, but that's your answers. So you got 4 over 5 and 3 over 4. For this one, I'm also going to go ahead and change the variables to x's. Just that way, I'll do a better job of drawing x's than a's. And I don't want to say a equals over to the side and mean my coefficient and get all kinds of confusion. So we're going to change them all over to x's. And you can do this in your regular math, doesn't matter. Like on the answer, then whatever the value ends up being, we would just say a equals instead of x equals. But let me go ahead, erase this at the top. That way we don't have to worry about it anymore. We're still doing the same problem. It's still from delta math. I just changed the variables. Don't have to do anything as far as setting equal to 0. It's already equal to 0 in this case. So I can go ahead and write out my x equals negative b plus and minus the square root, my quadratic formula. Square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. When I do this, I end up plugging in a, b, and c. So let's just say what they are. A equals 1, b equals negative 7, and then c equals 12. And of course, that's because it's set up as ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And I use the coefficients from here. So my a value is the coefficient for the x squared term. In this case, it's 1 because there's not a number there. It's just 1. My coefficient for the b term is negative 7. So b, or for the x term is negative 7. So b is negative 7. And my constant is 12. So I use c is equal to 12. Now I'll just plug it in. X is going to be equal to negative 7 plus and minus the square root of negative 7 squared minus 4 times my a value is 1, my c value is 12, and it's all over 2a. Before I move on, let me get rid of some of this up here. That way I don't have to worry about it all being too close to each other. We don't need that anymore. I'll write it over here just so you still have the reference. All right, so now I can go ahead and finish my math. Sorry, it was just bothering me it being on top of that. Negative 7 is a positive 7. Plus and minus the square root. Negative 7 squared is 49. And I'm going to be subtracting 4 times 1 times 12, which is 48. Another instance where we're going to take a square root of 1. I swear I don't do this on purpose. And then it's over, and I put 2a right there. I just now realized I needed to fix that. So let me go ahead and fix that. My a value was 1. So it's really just 2 times 1. And I'm going to have a 2 on bottom here still. Moving on, x is equal to 7 plus and minus the square root of 1 over 2. And you can skip that step. You can go straight to 1 if you want to. But I have to show you all the steps. 7 plus and minus 1. And I have to show you all these steps because that might not have been a 1. It might have been a 4, and you take the square root and you get 2. It might have been anything. You take the square root of it and get whatever number you get here. But the actual process of the math, you should still be able to follow. This is where we would split into two problems. I have x is equal to 7 plus 1 over 2, and then also 7 minus 1 over 2. 7 plus 1 over 2 is going to be 8 over 2, which ends up being 4. 7 minus 1 is 6. It'll be over 2, and the answer is 3. So I have x is equal to 4 and 3. I could have wrote it out over here with my squiggly brackets and said, hey, this is the answer. 3 and 4, it doesn't matter which one's first. They're still your answers. Y'all, look, all this quadratic formula stuff is not that bad. It looks scary because you got all this, but as long as you do everything step by step, it's not too bad. Don't worry about all this going on. The first step, you just combine everything that you can inside the square root first. So first thing, you square that and then combine these. Then you end up with a simple subtraction. Again, you still just leave the radical there. By the time you get to where you actually use this radical or anything else, there's not much to it. This is all there is. 7 plus and minus square root of whatever number you have here, in this case 1, and then you split it up and make 2 problems. So even though it looks scary, it looks like a lot going on, if you do it in order, you know, it's basically order of operations. Do this part first, then you throw that in there with it, and then divide. That's all you do.